So I try to make it a habit to surround myself with some really smart people, and today is no exception. I'm joined by our partner, Clay Jedi with MindSight. Clay's an expert in customer experience, cloud, and the contact center as a whole. Today, he's kind enough to join us as an expert in motivation and motivational software. I'm super psyched about his topic. It really excites me, and it gives me a chance to geek out on what Clay has to share with us. So welcome, Clay. I'm also joined by one of my favorite humans and the president of Vitech, Vince Fulgenzi. There's no one that knows more about contact center than he. He's a trusted advisor for centers around the globe and has been for over 3 decades. Joining us today is our MC and general expert. Welcome, Vince. So now that we've got that out of the way, I'm feeling kind of motivated to get started on our topic of motivating without money. So what is motivation? Well, it's the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. You can see that on the screen. That's Webster's definition of it. Synonyms are incentive, drive, motive, reason, wish, all kinds of synonyms. But it seems a bit of an abstract concept and kind of tough to wrap your brain around. Not really tangible. But there is one industry that's got it down to a science. So let's lead with a question. What $152 billion industry has completely figured out human motivators, capitalized on them to potentially the tune of $350 billion by the end of 2020? You know the answer. You just may not know that you know. So does this help? How about this one? Yeah, it kind of dates me a little bit, but did you get it? That's right, it's the video gaming industry, because after all, who doesn't want to do all of these things? Save the princess, find the treasure, get more coins, drive a car, fly a plane, pilot a spaceship, or. There are so many reasons and so many motivators in there. But interestingly enough, with all those motivators, where's the money? What about the money? Well, MIT has some answers. So check this out. In a study by MIT and other universities where money was the motivating factor, participants were asked to take on 2 different types of tasks. A clearly defined task, one that had a concise set of instructions, clear guidelines, and you arrived at one answer. So anybody could take on that task, follow those instructions, and arrive at the one answer. The second task was a bit more complex. It required some higher order thinking, more creativity. There were no clear instructions, and there wasn't just one answer and multiple paths to get to those multiple answers. So interestingly enough, here's what they found. More money or higher pay only led to better performance in the task that was clearly defined. Step by step, had only one answer. Didn't require a lot of out-of-the-box thinking, not a lot of autonomy. In the more complex or higher order thinking task, that actually money led to a lower performance. So more money led to lower performance, which is quite interesting. So it begs the question, is money truly not a motivator? Well, here's the best statement along those lines. Pay your people enough to take the issue of money off the table. Because once that's been removed, then other motivators come into play. Because research has proven, as we just checked out, that rewards like money can fail to improve people's engagement with tasks and may even damage it. Yet still, many people work in environments that are dominated by the old carrot and stick motivation, you know, to do well and you'll get a reward, but do badly and you'll be punished. So this approach, however, doesn't seem to encourage people to enjoy the satisfaction of doing a job well. It can often get lost in the drive for praise or promotion. And research again shows that employee engagement suggests that people perform better when they're motivated, which makes sense. So we're going to continue to explore a model that casts away the idea of reward and punishment as a motivational tool and instead focuses on what it takes to make people really care about what they do. So if it's not about show me the money in motivation, what is it then? Well, it's all about the amp. Not this amp, I just really liked the picture because it was kind of colorful and cool. But no, it's about this amp, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So about a decade ago, a gentleman by the name of Daniel Pink wrote a book called Drive, and it's full of really good stuff. But playing off further of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and some research done in the 1970-ish, Pink came up with these three almost intrinsic or inherent human motivators. Regardless of age, color, creed, every human is motivated by these three items. So let's delve into those further. Autonomy, what is it? Well, people want to have control over their stuff. They want to be in charge of what they do. So autonomy is the need to direct your own life and work. And in order to be fully motivated, according to Pink, you have to be able to be in control of what you do, when you do it, and who you do it with. Again, further, Pink says that autonomy motivates us to think creatively. So cast your mind back to the MIT study without needing to conform to strict workplace rules. So you could rethink maybe giving up some control and offering your people some autonomy, ideas and control, perhaps some regular office hours, dress codes, numerical targets, and have your folks participate in choosing those goals, because people will certainly perform better when they have some autonomy or some control over the goals that you choose. All right, so mastery. People want to get better at what they do. If you cast your mind back to one of our first slides on the video gaming industry, they've got this down pat. People want to get better at what they do. They want to continue to level up. So mastery is the desire to improve. And if you're motivated by mastery, you'll be just as likely to see that your potential is unlimited, right? And you're going to be looking to master a skill simply for the sake of mastering it. So, for example, let's say there's an athlete who's motivated by mastery, and they want to run faster and as fast as they possibly can. So along the way, he or she receives a number of medals. Those medals actually are secondary. They're less important than the process of that continuous improvement. And finally, purpose. People want to be a part of something bigger than they are. It's the reason that people volunteer. Hospitals, Meals on Wheels, pretty much you name it. It allows you to be a part of something bigger. And people can become disengaged or demotivated at work if they have no idea what you're working towards, no idea of the big picture. But if you explain it to them, those folks, once they understand that they are part of something bigger, they are your most motivated, most productive folks. So if you take, for instance, on a purpose side of things, connect personal goals to perhaps some organizational targets, you can win your folks' hearts, but also their minds. So is motivation measurable? Well, we think so. And this company thinks so as well. So this is a pretty cool thing. Check this out. The founders of a large outsourced call center for healthcare were suffering from some high turnover. And they felt that they paid their employees a fair wage, and they didn't want to pay their employees more, but they really wanted to change the culture so people were motivated to stay. And they took on, you can see these boxes, I won't read them to you. They took on these challenges. And if you have questions at the end, I can provide you some more details. And they changed their culture by doing these things. And simply by doing that, they now enjoy a turnover rate of less than 20%. Why? Because they appealed to the AMP, the autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So how do you bring it to your center? How do you bring it to your culture? Again, that kind of ambiguous concept of motivation. Let's bring it down a little bit. And this is where I get to geek out a little bit. And as I said earlier, because Clade is going to take over and I can just sit back and listen, but this idea really excites me. And it's an interesting cross from the video gaming industry, perhaps transitioning it into the workplace and making work more of a game. So Clade, would you be so kind as to take over?
Thank you, Michelle. Really appreciate it. Like Michelle said, my name is Clade Jedi, and I've been doing contact center consulting for almost 15 years. And I really have been lucky enough to work with different contact centers across all different verticals. And one thing you need to know about me, I really don't like presenting after Michelle because it's just a such a great presenter, such a great speaker, right? So I always try to like do my best, but I never really can catch up to her. So I'll try to do my best.
I'll pay attention. That's such a kind compliment. Thank you so much.
So first off, gamification. So if you could switch over to the next slide, Michelle, I would appreciate it. So gamification, last couple of years in our contact center practice, we've started incorporating gamification for our customers, right? Whenever we do consulting and trying to improve the numbers for our customers, we always put some gamification components in our consulting engagements, right? And this process really increased the productivity and the retention, especially within contact centers with a younger demographic. The millennium generation especially are by far the most affected by gamification since they all grew up playing video games, right? Me personally, I'm a little bit older, and I was never a gamer, right? So initially, I wasn't a big believer in gamification until I started using this particular workout app about 2 years ago. And you can see it there on the screen. It basically keeps track of your workouts and has got a heart monitor that goes along with it. And before I started using this workout, I was one of those guys that in January, I would go to the gym and I would go every day for 2 weeks, and then I would disappear for 2 years, right? And then this gamification workout app really turned me into a believer in gamification, right? I started going out regularly, and there's no money involved. The only motivation is that they move you up to different levels, and if you miss your points for 1 month, they're going to move you down to the previous level, and you have to work very hard for 6 months to get up to the level you are now. And it really changed my mind about gamification and how we can use this in our contact center practice, how we can use some of these ideas for our customers, right? Similar to this app, call center reps are encouraged to compete and complete objectives to outpace other agents or reach other goals. Rewards are given based on the company culture. Every customer is a little bit different. Some of them just include recognition on leaderboards. Some of them have special badges. Some customers even give physical prizes or might include other benefits. For example, we have healthcare customer that if you're a high-performing agent, you get first pick of your shifts, first pick of your days off. So a lot of the benefits are not motivated by financial payouts. And just like anything else, gamification can be as simple as having call center stats up on the dashboard, or you can have a more complex long-term goals associated with sales, associated with retention. If you are a call center that does handle cancellations, maybe you can relate it to holding back those customers from canceling their account. But just like anything else, just like any good video games, you want to start out simple. The biggest mistake that most of our customers make when they deploy gamification is that they try to make it too complex. And the agents, the customer service reps, they get overwhelmed and they don't use it, right? Just like any other good video game, you want to make that first level pretty simple so people get used to it and they can move up to the next levels. Can you switch over to the next slide, please, Michelle?
Sure.
All right. And then the next thing is getting feedback from your own agents, right? This is the other big mistake that we see most of the contact center leaders make in this space, not gathering feedback from their own agents and not analyzing recorded interactions. And I really have the perfect example. The first time I heard this example, I was really impressed with this, and it really stuck with me, and I've been using it in all of our presentations throughout the last couple of years. This was by a company called CEB. CEB is an organization that does customer experience consulting, and they went into a major airline. And as most of you know, most calls that airlines get are related to cancellation, flight delays. So these customers are already pretty upset before they call the airline. After a flight delay or a cancellation, the customer calls an 800 number, the navigator, an IVR, And usually the first thing that they do is they ask the agent to reschedule them on the next flight as soon as possible. Nobody wants to sit in an airport. Everybody wants to get out of there as soon as possible, make it to their destination. And unfortunately, agents usually know. They know why they're calling about. They know when a flight gets canceled in Chicago because of snow, right? So they know why these customers are calling about. And usually they pick up the call and they hear the request to get scheduled for a next flight, and they just tell the customer right away. They know that the next flight's already full, and right away they tell the customer, sorry, the next flight's already booked. I can get you out the next day or the day after that, whatever the case might be. This causes frustration, and it really leads to poor survey scores and poor customer satisfaction. And this was the issue that this particular airline was having. They were having their survey scores on their phone calls were very, very low. However, when they started looking at some of the stats, they noticed an outlier in the data, right? They noticed that one of their agents had significantly higher survey scores. Also, their average handle time was much higher than the other agents, right? So their average handle time was higher, but their survey scores were also higher. So they decided to do some investigation and listen into a couple of call recordings and see what this agent was doing that was so different. And what they really discovered was a game changer for them. It was a game changer that basically changed their whole strategy. This particular agent was answering the calls, was very carefully listening to the customer's request to be booked for the next flight. And even though he knew that the next flight was completely packed, he knew that he was no way he was going to get the customer on that flight, he would tell them that he's going to put them on hold and he's going to try really, really hard to get them on the next flight. And then he would take the next couple of minutes and check his stocks and do some, check Facebook, do some personal things, get back on the line, and he'll tell the customer, I'm really sorry, I really tried my best, but I couldn't get you on the next. Very, very remorsefully, he would tell the customer he couldn't get them on the next flight, but he could get them out the next day. So basically, he gave the customer the same answer, but made them feel important, made them feel like he really tried, right? Even though the answer was the same, the way he approached it was very different. So once we got the idea that that's what he was doing, and once the airline started using this as a strategy for all their cancellation calls, the survey scores within a month went up by 30%. And I hope that this story, this example, kind of drills in the idea that sometimes the best ideas come from within your ranks, right? And it's very important to have an ear to the ground and see what works and get that feedback from your own agents. And I think that's all I had for you today.
Clay, I love that story. I love that story. That's just, it plays right into what we've been talking about, because, he did that on his own. So that whole autonomy type of thing that then led to some really positive results. And how cool is that? That just actually leads us right into our slide. So thanks. I was completely geeking out, loving every minute of that. So thanks so much. So some further amped up ideas that we wanted to share with you today. You'll see here on your screen, 10% time. Okay, so what is that? If you give your team members the chance to spend 10% of their working time on a project of their own choice, again, this is that autonomy thing that comes into play. The project should perhaps fall outside of their day-to-day work, but still offer benefits to your business or your center, like finding ways to improve a process, for instance. And it's really quite interesting. There's an Australian company that took on this challenge. They call it FedEx Day, because they asked their folks to deliver something in 24 hours, like FedEx does. And again, talking about what Clay said, that the agent then enacted an entire change throughout the center. autonomously, that person took that on, and this FedEx Day is along those same lines. So they called it, again, FedEx Day because of the 24 hours. But what they found were some terrific results. Nobody said no to participating in this. They were completely self-organizing, so no managerial interference. Again, that autonomy that came into play. Many folks stayed late to work on the projects of their choosing, and there were 3 that actually slept in their sleeping bags at the company in order to complete their tasks at the end of 24 hours, presenting to their peers. Excuse me, my throat got a little dry there. There are still some projects that are in play currently. So that's a really cool idea. One warning on the 10% time is if your people are already feeling a bit overwhelmed with work and they have multiple projects that they're juggling, this 10% time offering will probably not be well received. All right, so flexible schedule, that's a pretty easy one, offering people potentially the chance to work at home a couple of days, split shift, maybe not fall within regular office hours, as we had talked earlier. Outside of those regular office hours, what works best for the individual, and really getting to know them and making them feel like you care about them. Goldilocks tasks. Okay, so those are interesting. You all remember the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears, where the bed was not too hard, not too soft, porridge not too hot, not too cold. That's what this is. The Goldilocks tasks, offering them to your team, should stretch your team members and enable them to either develop skills that they currently have or develop new skills. And again, that's that mastery that we're playing into. Goldilocks tasks often would include collaborative work, have a really clear and identified goal so that everybody is working towards that same goal. Again, purpose coming into play there. So let's say, for example, you could ask your team to resolve a bottleneck in your organization's customer service interface or process as a whole. And then finally, perks and privileges. Those are easy ones. And you can come up with ones on your own, but giving birthdays off, or potentially bringing in lunch for someone who has done an outstanding job of their choosing that they get to share with everyone, or potentially a longer lunchtime, a beneficial parking space. And again, so very many ideas that come out of that, but I will never forget because it motivated me so much working at a radio station, and it was this giant organization that I didn't think had any idea, of course, who I was. Maybe I was just a number, but I got my birthday off. Everybody in the company got their birthday off, and it was such a great feeling. I really felt special, and people truly cared about me, even though, of course, we have this faceless organization that we may be working under. So that's it, folks. And I know that we're just a little bit over the 23 minutes, but thanks for joining us. Are there any questions that may be coming our way? Vince, I think you're probably in receipt of those as they come through.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, as a matter of fact, there are some questions that have come in. And I didn't want to interrupt you because you were doing such a great job in the presentation. Thank you both. The first one is you've provided a number of examples of ideas that people can implement. Do you have any examples of motivational ideas that did not work well or produced an undesirable result? As an example, we know that when it comes to trying to improve average handle time, we never want to ask agents to reduce their handle time because they will do it and we won't be happy with the result. So is there anything from a motivational standpoint that you've seen that hasn't worked or produced a bad result? And I'll throw that either to Clade or Michelle.
Thanks. Clade, do you have thoughts on that? I have some, but I'd love to hear you.
Yes. So actually, the only thing I've seen that, from a motivation perspective, has been a very good example was a startup at the time. This was about 8-9 years ago. Now they're a big company, but at the time they were started up. They had about 200 agents, and they were located downtown Chicago. And they were hiring the very young agents, right? They right out of college. These were very young, and they had a real big problem with retention. So one of the things that they implemented was like, you can do whatever you want on your computer as long as you answer calls. Like they didn't block anything that allowed the agents to do anything they wanted on their computer as long as they were answering calls. What they turned into, it turned into the agents answering calls and watching Netflix at the same time, right? So, you know, it's very important to have some boundaries in place and make sure that whatever they are doing, it's not interfering with them taking calls, right? It's kind of hard to watch Netflix and or watch YouTube or Netflix while we're trying to talk to a customer live. Some other examples have been situations where, you know, the gamification ideas that we have implemented, and usually when we've used third-party software for the gamification, they've been too complex to begin with. And like I said in my presentation, you really want to start off simple. If you make it too complex, it's going to be hard for the agents, for the customer service reps to digest that first level of gamification.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for those. Vince, really, I just have one, and this one I'll not soon forget. Had a client who built a brand new building and was telling their contact center reps how wonderful the new location was going to be and how bright and awesome, because they were working in sort of this maybe dingy, not dingy, but dark building that had, you know, seen better days. And so they were all very excited. But when they got there, brand new building, lovely, beautiful, all of those things, they were in the basement. But while the basement was beautiful, they didn't have any cell phone reception. So they were unable to take calls from their family or their kiddos at school if there was an emergency. And the turnover just went through the roof after the move. And they couldn't quite understand it until they, as Clay had encouraged, got some agent feedback. And that one went pretty quickly. So they very rapidly put in a wireless antenna that allowed cell phone reception in the basement. But it was a pretty interesting, you know, the old carrot and stick kind of thing, and that carrot that they dangled wasn't quite as shiny as they thought.
Yeah, I remember Park University, that their contact center was actually in the caves, and so there was no chance. So they actually installed a whole repeater system just for that reason. We have another question. And by the way, thank you both. Those are great answers. Does flex time as an amped idea get overused to the point of impacting business needs? Comment is, I'm presuming there will be a high uptake on this option in our office.
So I'll take that. So basically, if flex time is deployed correctly and is deployed as part of a workforce management software, where the workforce management is doing a lot of the scheduling, and it's telling you how much you can use flex time, and most importantly, making sure that you have the right amount of agents when you need to have them, using the forecasting that's built into workforce management. It doesn't affect anything, because the workforce management is basically calculating and telling you how many agents you need to have, and when they can take off and when they can work. However, I've seen customers try to do flex time manually, and unless you stay on top of it, it can be pretty slow, right? Where to the point where you can be severely understaffed, and your KPIs and your SLAs are really going to get impacted.
Clay, that is right on. As long as you're letting the workforce management solution determine when people can flex, then it's perfect. And in fact, there are some major advantages by providing that. As an example, when you have part-time people or even full-time people, if you're providing flex time or work at home, it's possible to let workforce management set up like a split shift, which you would never do with full-time people coming into an office. You know, say work from 8 to noon and then take off until 3 and then come back in and work 3 to 7. No way somebody's going to go for that. But at home to do that, no big deal.
Right.
So,
right.
Great response.
Nice.
And then there's one more question,
Okay.
and that is, what are the KPIs that are best accepted or motivating to the agents?
That's a good question. I'm just going to jump in, and then, Clayton, I'm going to toss it over to you because you're way smarter than I am. But for me, and what I've seen that is potentially the least motivational is the measuring of the average handle time. I'm a talker, and if you haven't quite gotten that through through this presentation today, I'm quite a talker, and I like to spend time with people because I like people very much. And so average handle time, particularly when we have a client who prays with folks, and the average handle time has been thrown out as a metric in their center because you certainly can't rush divinity, if you will. So I think for me, Vince, what I've seen is that the least motivational is that average handle time because people are trying to stay within a particular boundary, and often for folks it's an unnatural thing because they're very caring and want to take care of the customer, but then having to do it within a lot of time is tough.
Thank you.
Clay?
Yeah, I completely agree with Michelle, right? And the average handle time is one of those things that's completely overused, right? And as you saw from my example, like one thing that I usually tell customers, don't just focus on a single KPI, right? As you saw from the airline example, if the only thing we're looking at was the average handle time on a phone call, and if we said the lower average handle time means that you're doing a good job, but then they would have had a really bad customer experience or continue to have a very bad customer experience, right? But instead, they took a different approach, and they were looking at the interaction as a whole, right? From a customer perspective, the only metric that really matters is how easy you made it for that customer to get their issue resolved, right? So that's the only thing that customers care about. Like, did they have to put in a lot of work to get this issue resolved? If the answer is yes, you can improve whatever KPIs it takes to improve that and make it more effortless. Those are the KPIs or combination of KPIs you should try to provide for your agents, maybe as part of a gamification or some other reward system.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree, Clay, 100%. And as we talked about, including your folks in those goal settings and those KPIs will actively engage them in a more productive and lively manner. Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. So, Vince, is that it then?
That's really right on. It's complicated in that, as an example, measuring first call resolution is one of the things that I think most customers are really interested in. They want their call resolved the first time they call in, and they want it resolved quickly, whatever their issue is. However, if the agents aren't given the tools to be able to do that, then it's demotivating. If you're measuring first call resolution, because theirs is going to look horrible, and they're just saying, hey, it's not my fault. The information's not available to me. You won't, how are we supposed to resolve this?
That's right. And your agents are the ones that see all of those challenges, all those process hiccups, all of those bottlenecks, because they're on the front line. They're a great source of information, a wealth of information. The healthcare company that we talked about, the outsourced healthcare company, actually created a team, a motivational team, and took a member from each area. And they're in charge of figuring out ways to incentivize and motivate their folks, which is kind of cool, peers motivating peers. So that's a really neat thing, too.
Yes, it is. So I recommend to all of the attendees on our webinar today, if you have questions or you have concerns, it doesn't cost anything to pick up the phone or send an email, reach out to Michelle or Clade and ask an opinion. Even a phone call, a conference call. There's no charge for any of that. If we engage in a project, of course there might be, but we're never going to come back and say, oh, hey, by the way, there's a cost. It just, we're there for you and we want to help. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
Right, exactly. And then with our parting gift, I forgot about our Amazon gift card, which is awesome. And I want to let all attendees know that we were actually trying to prove a theory to see if we could get a greater number or the greatest number of participants on this particular motivational webinar by offering, a gift card or some kind of incentive. And the interesting thing is it seems that the answer is yes. Yes, what's in it for me really makes a big difference. And so I'm super excited. Thank you all for joining us. And we are going to have a drawing. Jane, did you want to say anything about that? Jane's with Mindsight, and she is the keeper of the good stuff. So she may be muted now, but.
So actually, Michelle, can you hear me?
I can, Jane. Yes. Hi.
Okay. So wonderful. We do have the list of attendees, and I believe that we were drawing 2 gift cards, correct?
Well, that's even motivational. Jane, I love it.
Okay. So I did go through a random process via an app that we use. So the winner of the first is Michelle, who I believe is still on the call. And so I will forward this to you via email, Michelle. And then the second is Zaman. And I will also forward yours to you via the email you provided. So congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Michelle's a pretty good name, I think. Yes, congratulations, both of you. And again, thank you all. Jane, thanks so much to you and Kim for putting this together behind the scenes and just making everything work. You guys are tireless and awesome. Thank you, Clade, for lending your expertise as ever. Vince, of course, giant thank yous to you. And even the biggest thank yous to all of you participants. Thanks for choosing to join us today and spend some time. We appreciate you. Have a great day.